My Facebook ads agency has run more than 1,000 Facebook ad campaigns that use instant forms, what used to be called lead forms, and we've certainly learned a thing or two about how to get the most out of them. Now, instant forms can be a fantastic way to generate lots of low-cost leads, and those leads can be high quality as well if you know how to set up your instant forms the right way. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how. Now, quickly, just before I walk you through the instant form creation process and what you should use settings-wise and how to get the most out of it, I need to very quickly explain what an instant form is. Now, you've probably seen these, even if you haven't used them in your ad campaigns before. It's where you click on an ad on Facebook or Instagram, and instead of being taken through to a website, you are kept on platform and presented with a form, and on that form you usually enter in some contact information, you might answer a few questions, you submit that to the company, you've effectively become their lead, and they will then contact you about whatever offer you were interested in, and they can progress you through the sales process. That's what an instant form is. Now, Meta loves advertisers that use instant forms because it keeps their users on platform. They're not clicking off to go through to a website. It's one of the reasons why instant forms can be so effective, and one of the reasons why instant forms often produce a much lower cost per lead than sending people to your website. Now, I'm not saying we always use instant forms. I'll explain more about the differences and when you want to use each one later on, but those are some of the big advantages and they are very compelling. Okay, so I'm in an example Facebook ad account to walk you through this process. I'm in Ads Manager. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly create a leads campaign and then go to the instant form. So I'm not going to walk through every single setting at the campaign ad set or put the ad together. I'm really going to keep this video focused on instant forms. I have other videos walking through the entire campaign and ad creation process. I'll include links to those in the video description below. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this green plus create button, and then we're obviously going to select the leads objective. I'm going to click continue. We're not going to use a tailored campaign for this. We do use tailored campaigns, what can be called Advantage Plus campaigns sometimes, but most of the time we're going to use a manual campaign because that gives us more flexibility, more targeting options, more control over our campaigns. And if you know what you're doing, I think that's the better option. So I'd recommend you go with manual leads campaign. Just a quick aside on that. So then we don't need to adjust anything at the campaign level for the process of this video. Just quickly jump to the ad set level and make sure that the conversion location is instant forms. Now, that's the default that Facebook now uses for a leads campaign objective campaign. And as I said, that's because Meta loves advertisers that use instant forms, that keep their users on the platform. You can obviously change it to website, etc., and just make sure it isn't. Otherwise, you won't actually be able to create the instant form at the ad level, which is where we need to jump to next. So again, I'm not going to go through the ad creation process. I'm just going to focus on the instant form. So if you scroll down beneath the ad creation process and we get down to this destination section here, we've got instant form. Now, the first thing we need to decide here is whether or not we're going to use a template or create a unique form. Now, templates obviously save you time. It can be quicker to put these together. Sometimes they can look better if you don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to show you how to do it properly. Therefore, I'm going to go ahead and create a unique form. It gives us the most flexibility and allows us to play around with the settings and get the best possible results. So I'm going to demonstrate this through creating a form. Now, the first thing we need to do is give this form a name. So I would just call this whatever the offer is going to be. What are you actually advertising? Something that makes sense. If you've got multiple versions, we'll get onto that later on, then you're going to want to give it a name that differentiates between those multiple versions. I'm going to go ahead and call this free discovery call for mentorship program, because that's the example I'm going to use through this video. I'm going to create an instant form as if we were advertising my mentorship program, which we do all the time anyway, by the way. But yeah, so that's the context here, and obviously you can adjust it and apply to your own business depending on the products and services that you offer. So give it a name that's going to make sense to you. Right, the next thing we need to decide is form type. Now you can see the default is more volume. So that's going to be the simplest form without extra requirements, without extra information. And that is going to, as the name suggests, get you the most possible leads. It's going to, because there's less friction with that. So more people are going to go through the process and become a lead. You've got higher intent, and you'll see that if we scroll down here, there's no review screen. If I go ahead and change that to higher intent, you can see that we've added in a review screen. So basically the way higher intent works is that once people have been through the form, they've submitted their information, they will then be presented with a review screen. So like one final window just to say, are you sure your information is correct? Are you sure you want to send it to this company? Yes, I do. Now, obviously that's going to weed out some of the people that are just sort of having a look and aren't that interested. That can be valuable if you're finding issues with lead quality and you want to weed out those lower quality leads. I wouldn't recommend that most advertisers use that, especially not initially, because it's going to weed out some lower quality leads. It also might weed out some higher quality leads, because there's two things that make a lead a good lead, right? There's intent. How intent are they on your offer, your product or service? But there's also the type of person. So you could take someone that fits the criteria really well. They have the budget, they work in the right industry. You know, it's going to vary depending on businesses, right? That fits the criteria really well. They're not that interested yet, but you absolutely want that person going through your sales process, because you might be able to improve on that intent. You might be able to demonstrate the benefits associated with your product or service and get them really excited about it. And higher intent is going to weed out some of those people as well. So I think for most advertisers, I would not use higher intent. If we go back to form type. But if you are struggling with lead quality, that is an option that you can look into and test it, see if it improves lead quality. We've also got rich creative, which is the newest of the three options. And I'm going to talk more about rich creative later on, just to give a quick summary. Rich creative allows you to add in more information about your offer. So if it's something that you feel you want to provide more information to get people over the line, to help convince them to take the next step, to actually become a lead and then make it more likely that they'll convert as they go through your sales process, with Rich Creative, you can add benefits associated with your product or service. You can talk about things about your story, add in credentials, and we're going to cover Rich Creative in quite a bit of detail later on. That we use far more often than higher intent. Again, it's another way to improve lead quality, but it doesn't add quite as much friction. It's more additive as opposed to trying to cut off the lower quality leads. But I think for most advertisers, and what we still do most of the time, is we go with more volume. So I'm going to demonstrate this using more volume, and then we're going to talk more detail about Rich Creative later on. So once you've selected your form type, we can minimize that down. The next thing we need to do is grab the intro. Right, so there's two options here when it comes to the background image for the form, and you need to have one. One is to just use the image that's used in your ad, if that's appropriate, or you can upload a specific image. Now, because I just created this example campaign, as you saw, and Meta's just put in an image into my ad from ones that are associated with my Facebook page, it's grabbed this very old image of me that hasn't been used in years. So we wouldn't use this in the ad. We also definitely wouldn't use this as the background image. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that the image you upload here looks good in the space, makes sense for the offer, and that it has congruity between the ad itself and the instant form. You don't want someone to click on the ad and then come through to the instant form and be like, what? Hang on, this is something different. They'll leave. So often using the same image makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't. You have to have a little play around with things. You can see what it looks like in the preview on the right-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and upload an image. And here's an image of me speaking on stage at a marketing conference. It looks good in the space. It sort of fills behind the stuff as well, which looks kind of cool. And also it ticks some of the boxes, right? Provides credibility for me. It's congruent with a mentorship program offer. Like, if someone's going to want to be a mentee of mine, they want to know that my opinion is valued and I get asked to speak at events like these and all that sort of stuff, right? So just make sure it makes sense. And as I said, there's congruity between the offer, the ad, and whatever image you use here. You could use the same as your ad or different depending on how it looks, okay? So that's the first thing in the image. Then we get down to the greeting. Now that we're starting to get into the meat of the instant form, you need to have a think about what your instant form is really trying to do. So your ad has done a good enough job to get them to click on the ad. So that box is ticked, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're automatically going to go through and fill out the form. And actually, when you run lead campaigns using instant forms, you will see the difference between the number of clicks on the form you get versus how many people actually submit the form. There will be a discrepancy there, and you want that difference to be as small as possible. You want as many people as click as possible to go through and become a lead, assuming, of course, you're not using higher intent to weed out low quality leads, which most people aren't, particularly at the beginning. So what we need to do is we need to help encourage people to actually go ahead and fill this out and take the next step. So I think the first thing we want to do in the headline is affirm the action that we want people to take. The people who are initially interested in based on the ad to come through, and what are they actually going to do? What are they actually going to get here, okay? So for our example, we could have sign up for your free mentorship discovery call, okay? Something like that. They've clicked on an ad all about a free mentorship discovery call. They're interested in my mentorship program. They come through. This first headline that they can see in the greeting makes complete sense for them, right? Then we've got the paragraph section, so we can add a little bit more information here or let people know what they can expect. Enter your info and we'll be in touch within 24 hours. Now, little side note, if someone fills out an instant form, I'd strongly recommend you get in touch with them far faster than 24 hours, but you don't want to come across as a little bit too keen in the instant form. Like, fill out this form and we'll give you a call back right away. Someone might go, oh, hang on, well, I don't actually have time for a long call right now, and that they might make it less likely to fill out their instant form. So something like 24 hours sounds like we're going to be prompt without being a little bit overbearing, but we're actually going to try and get in touch with people much faster than that, and I'll talk about that more later on, okay? So this is like a little greeting page. You can, if you want to, remove this greeting. I don't think that makes sense for most people because I think, as I said, you want to reaffirm the action that you want people to take once they've clicked on your ad. Remember, people interacting with your ads on Facebook and Instagram often aren't paying much attention. They're sat on the loo, they're watching telly, they're talking to a friend, they're doing all sorts, so you want them to, you want to make it very clear and obvious what the next steps are. If you do, more people are going to take those next steps. Okay, so the next section that we need to do is the questions section. So if I go ahead and open this out. Now the questions is obviously where you get the information that you want from your prospects in order to be able to get in touch with them and progress them through your sales funnel. Now there are some complex looking things up here, conditional logic and different question types. I'll get to those in a minute. First, I'm going to go down to this section here and talk about the pre-fill questions, right? So the first part here, before we get into the pre-fill questions, I'll explain what that means. We need to add in a description. So here, once again, you see a theme. I'm just going to let people know exactly what I want them to do and what they should expect from taking that action. So in here, I'm going to add a enter your info below and we'll be in touch to arrange your free mentorship discovery call. Something along those lines, right? Just, again, a little bit of information explaining what we want people to do and what they should expect. Now, what we see beneath this is that the default in terms of contact information is email and full name. And that's great. We definitely want those two, but there is another bit of information that we absolutely want to ask for when it comes to contact information, and this is essential. This is a non-negotiable in my mind. Now, so if you click on add category and then contact fields, you want to go ahead and select phone number. And you want to select phone number, even though it will decrease the amount of leads that come through because people will be reluctant to give you their phone number, understandably so. But it is absolutely vital because if you just get someone's name and email address, and then you try and follow up with that person after they become a lead, the chances that you actually get in touch with them is very, very small. It's very likely that your email is going to hit spam filters. Even if it doesn't hit a spam filter, makes it to the inbox, very likely that they'll just ignore it. Everyone gets tons of emails, very easy to ignore. They might not remember that they filled out this instant form or the name of the company. This happens all the time, right? But if you ask for a phone number and you give that prospect a call, you can also follow up with text messages. That is super valuable. You are way more likely to make contact with the prospect if you do that. And obviously, if you're more likely to make contact with a prospect, you're much more likely to progress them through your sales funnel and get them to the point where they actually go ahead and become a customer or a client of yours, which is of course the whole point of running the ad campaign using the instant form in the first place. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about lead follow-up later on, but including that phone number is absolutely essential. Now, there are other bits of pre-fill question information you could ask for. So if you click on add category here, you could ask for other contact information, people's addresses. You could ask demographic questions, date of birth, all this sort of stuff, work information, etc., etc. I would not recommend that you ask for anything that you don't need to be able to progress people to the next stage. Like let's say, for example, you operate a local service business and you need someone's address. They are going to be more willing in general to give you that over the phone when you contact them at the next step than they are just simply an instant form when they haven't had any interaction with you yet. People don't really want to give out their addresses. Again, understandably so. So I always think when it's asking for contact information, ask for the bare minimum, which is going to allow you to get in touch with people. That's normally going to be email, name, phone number in let's say 90+% of cases. And then what you want to do is get them on the phone and get the rest of the information that you need over that phone call to actually progress the lead. We've run loads of tests on this, and if you try and add in a bunch of other information that people don't really want to give, you'll just massively decrease the amount of leads that you generate. And because, as I've already mentioned, when it comes to following up with leads, you want to get their phone number and call them, and you want to do so as quick as possible. I mean, ideally within 5 minutes of that lead becoming a lead. You're far more likely to get the conversion if you do, but definitely within an hour or so of becoming a lead. You can grab that information really quickly. It shouldn't slow down any of your operational processes when it comes to servicing that lead. Okay, so these are the pre-fill questions. And what that means is that this information will be taken from someone's Facebook or Instagram account if it is associated with their Facebook and Instagram account, and it'll be automatically filled. So when someone clicks on your ad, they come through to your instant form, they see the greeting, they go through to the contact information section where they're adding in their info in here, then this stuff, if it's associated with their account, which it will be for a lot of people, is pre-filled. And this is another really important reason why you need to ask for the phone number, because what will happen a lot of times is the email address will be pre-filled, but it will be the email address that they use to set up their Facebook profile 15, close to 20 years ago in some scenarios. Obviously, not everyone, but in some scenarios, and that could easily be an old email address. People change their phone numbers far less frequently, and also people are less likely to have their phone number associated with their account, so it's less likely to be pre-filled and they might need to manually input it. Now the pre-fill makes it really easy. So like someone can click on the ad, come through to instant form, and just a couple of clicks and they're through and they've become a lead, which gives you lower lead costs and higher volume. But just something to be aware of, and again, another reason why you need that phone number, because if you get an old email address and you end up emailing that to follow up, they're never going to see it, they don't even check it, it's going to hit a spam filter, you've got no chance. So above this pre-fill questions section, you can also add in custom questions. So basically anything that you want to ask. Now, given what I've already talked about, not asking for more contact information, most of the time, this is not something that we would look to add in. We would look to get this information at the next stage. But if you found that you're just getting way too many leads come through that aren't the right type of person, they don't meet the criteria, then you can absolutely add in questions, and you can click on add question. You can either use multiple choice, short answer, or you can use conditional logic, okay? So multiple choice and short answer are fairly self-explanatory, right? You just click on short answer, you enter in your question, there's gonna be a little text field. So I could say, for example, if someone was signing up for our free mentorship discovery call, I could say, like, what industry do you operate in, right? Like if we only worked with certain industries, we could have that, and then that's going to be a question in here, and you can see it's beneath the greeting, and it's got what industry you operate in, and there's going to be the answered section there. That's before they get to the contact information section. That's a subsequent stage, right? So we could add that in, or we could remove that, or we could say, we could have a multiple choice, and we could say something like, what Facebook ads budget have you got? And then we could have some answers, right? Like we could have, 0 to 2K per month, and then we could have 2K to 5K per month, and we could just go through and add the various options. And again, that might be useful information. Most of the time we're not going to add these in unless, as I said, you're getting a lot of leads that don't meet the criteria, in which case what we're usually going to do is use conditional logic, right? So you can see this little section up here. If I hover over and click I, it says create a form that changes based on how questions are answered and filter people as a lead or a non-lead. So if I go ahead and turn this on, and then what we can do is add a question. So let's go back to that multiple choice example. Sample questions, perfect example is budget. How much do you want to spend? Or in this case, we could have what ad budget have you got? And then we can do the various options, up to 1,000 USD, 1,000 to 4,000, over 4,000. You can adjust those according to your business. And obviously you could ask a different question. But then the logic is, so let's say someone's got less than 1,000 and that's just not a goer. We don't work with businesses under that, right? Okay. So we could say close form, right? So people don't give you their info and see an end page for non-leads. Basically they get told you don't qualify. So we could say, now that one's closed form. And then perhaps this one where it's 1,000 to 4,000, we're happy. We can submit form, E1 end page for lead, so that person gets marked as a lead. And then you can go through the various options. So basically be like, if out of the multiple choice they say this, they're not a lead. If out of the multiple choice they say this, they are a lead, and it can save you, your sales team, time if you're getting poor quality ones coming through. That's how that works using conditional logic. It's not where I'd recommend, so I'm going to turn this off. It's not where I'd recommend most meta advertisers start, particularly if you're relatively new to instant forms. But like I said, if you are running into problems with lead quality, that's one of the ways that you can go ahead and do it. I'm going to remove this out because in this example, this is not something that we would ask for, and then we can continue on beneath the pre-fill questions and get to the next section. Right, I was about to move on to privacy policy, but there's one thing I quickly forgot that I need to let you know about conditional logic, is that you can see down here that we have got message for leads, but we don't have end pages. If we go ahead and click on conditional logic and turn this on, you can now see that basically what we have now is end page section. It's changed, and we've got two different end pages. So we've got an end page for people that do become leads and an end page for people that don't become leads. Whereas without conditional logic, basically people either make it through or they don't. They all get shown the same message for someone that goes through and becomes a lead. And you can just see that if you click into these, you can see the preview on the right hand side. This is an end page for leads, so it's got just a headline description. Thanks, you're all set. You can exit the form now, and you can include a go to website URL at the bottom. I'm going to talk more about end pages later on, but I just wanted to quickly highlight that there are different options. So then you've got one for non-leads that says, thanks for your interest. Based on your answers, you might not be the best fit. check out our website. So you can customize these, fairly obvious what you want to put in here, but I just wanted to quickly cover that if you are using conditional logic, so you're aware of it. But I'm going to turn off conditional logic, and I'm also going to talk more about end pages and what you want to put on there in a minute. What becomes message for leads when you're not using conditional logic. But before we do that, we need to go into privacy policy. Okay, so to run meta ads that use an instant form, you need to have a privacy policy and a link to a privacy policy. It's as simple as that. Now, when I've talked about instant forms in the past, I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't have one. It's like, sorry, you just got to make one. You just got to put in a little bit of time and effort to make one. Even if you don't have a website, you might need a one-page, super simple website that'll barely cost you anything that's just got a privacy policy that's just part of the rules. It's what Meta absolutely insists that you do have, okay? So you need a privacy policy and you need to pop a link in here. You also can't, by the way, use like a PDF document or something like that. It needs to be an actual URL. So I would just add in, for example, our privacy policy. And then you've got link text, right? So you've got here, you can see the default. So this is like if someone wants to click on the privacy policy, the default link text is view Ben Heath's privacy policy. But I could change that, for example, to like Heath Media's privacy policy, which is the name of my agency instead, whereas obviously my page is my own name. So you can add that in there, right? No one's ever going to click on that. Like, who clicks on privacy policies, really? And 1 in 10,000 people, but it's just part of the rules. You got to put it in. Then you've got a custom disclaimer. Now, whether or not you need to use these very much depends on the industry that you operate in. If you do need a custom disclaimer, you're probably already aware of that. It's probably because you work in finance or housing, the stuff that actually falls within special ad categories within Meta. If you do need to add one in. Most don't, and that's absolutely fine and straightforward. And if you do, you probably know, because I speak to lots of business owners all the time, and those that operate within those sort of more restricted markets when it comes to marketing, they know about all the regulations, or at least you should. Then once we've done that, we need to go into message for leads, what's basically the version of an end page. So the default headline, you can see the preview on the right hand side, is thanks, you're all set. I actually quite like that. I think that's fine. And then we've got a description. So here, I just want to confirm the action people have taken and let them know what they should expect. And that's what I want to add in as a description. So I can go ahead and add in something like this. We'll be in touch within 24 hours to arrange your free mentorship discovery call. So again, once again, confirming what's going to happen. Please keep an eye out for our call. It's a nice little touch that we've been adding in because it sort of preps people a little bit that they are going to be receiving a phone call. And I think that's helpful. I think you're more likely to get the person to pick up if they see a call from an unknown number. Okay, then we've got an additional action. So you can see this button down here that says view website. Underneath the thank you page, this end page here, you've got a few different options where you can get people to take additional action. So the default is going to be visit your website. That's what most people are going to do, and that's absolutely fine. That's what I would use in this scenario. You could also have view file. So let's say you were using instant forms to advertise a lead magnet, like something people get, like a guide or a cheat sheet or something. You could literally pop the file in there and then people could download it straight away instead of having to be like added to a CRM and then send it that way. Although you probably want to do that so you can follow up with them for marketing purposes. Or you can call business, like if you want to get a call straight away. Again, don't think that everyone who fills out the instant form will then go ahead and call your business afterwards. They absolutely won't. They will wait for a call back if that's what they're expecting. But some people, particularly if you offer a service that's relatively urgent, you know, you're a plumber and someone's got a leak, they might click on that call and call you right away if your ad has popped up just at the right time for them. So you might want to add that in depending on your business, okay? So you just want to add in a link. You know, we could put in, for example, our website URL, heathmedia.co.uk. And then we've got the call to action, right? So we've got view website. That would be a good default, but there are, of course, other options that you might want to send people to directly. So let's say, for example, you offer a service that's like creating bespoke products or designing something for people, something that's quite visual. Then you might want to change this to view portfolio. And then you might want to change, you know, this isn't a page on our website, obviously, but you could have view portfolio, you know, heathmedia.co.uk/portfolio, so that when people have submitted their form, in between then and when you contact them, some will go ahead and click on the portfolio and be like, oh yeah, okay, this person does great artwork. This person has renovated this house and that's a great company. Look at the work they've done. This is going to really help. So that could be one option. So just sending them through to your homepage. You could also have testimonials. You know, you could have like view testimonials or view reviews as the text. You can see it's changing the name of the button here. That's more the sort of option that we might use as a business. People interested in our mentorship program, we've got hundreds of fantastic things that people have said about that. We've got them displayed on our website. I mean, to be honest, that's all over our homepage and everywhere anyway, but we could send them to a specific page. People might want to come through and see that. That might be extra important if your business is something people have a bit of skepticism over, as they often do with marketing agencies. So you can just customize this depending on what you think will work best for your business. Okay, so that is a relatively instant form now created. There's some other things I want to run through, particularly rich creative. Before I do that, there's a couple other things I want to let you know about. Firstly, you can't edit any existing instant form. So once you've created it, you can't go in and make adjustments, which is really annoying. What you have to do is duplicate the original one, create a new form, and then just amend whatever it is that you want to change, assuming you wanted it to be similar to the previous one. If you don't want it to be similar to the previous one, you could just create one from scratch. So just wanted to let you know, aware of that, so that when you're going through the form creation process before you actually click create form, just make sure everything's right, because that can be quite tedious. The other thing as well that you might want to think about is that if there are different angles that you want to take, different images that you want to use in your instant form, different copy, different pointers, you can obviously create multiple instant forms and run separate ads to test alongside each other. That's something that we often do. I think a lot of people just view instant forms as something that is very functional and doesn't make a difference to your lead volume or your cost per lead, and it does. We've split tested this quite a lot, particularly things like the image. It might sound trivial, but think about how important the image is in your ad in the first place, right? Like, why wouldn't the instant form to back it up be important too? It is. So just something to be aware of, that you can obviously split test different instant forms, and we do often. Okay, let's talk about rich creative. So to do that, let's go ahead and scroll back up to form type, and then we want to go ahead and click on rich creative instead, okay? Now, I already described what rich creative is. It's basically an opportunity for you to provide a lot more information about your products and services you offer to help get people over the line. I'm really glad that Meta added this, because of what I've just literally mentioned around the instant forms being important for helping get that conversion, helping get people over the line. Well, if you can brag about your products and services and give evidence as to why people should work with you, they are more likely to do so, okay? So once you change your form type, you will have a lot of the stuff wiped out of your form. Now, I'm not gonna go back through and add in all the details that I already just showed you in terms of like image and headline and things like that. A lot of things that stay the same. We've got overview, just the exact same sort of thing. What I am gonna do though is focus on the elements that are different with rich creative. So you'll see that the first thing that we've got here in this sort of greeting section, as it were, with the more volume instant form, is we've now got this benefits, which you can add in underneath the description and the headline. So if you go ahead and add in benefits, you know, if you're into marketing, relatively obvious what benefits are. I'll give you some examples of what we might use when it comes to advertising our mentorship program, but adding these in can absolutely help people get over the line. So we could add in some of the positive things associated with our mentorship program. So we could have unlimited one-to-one support, daily live calls. We could have unlimited ad account audits. You know, I'm just thinking of these off the top of my head. You might be able to come up with more specific ones for your business. There is a 57 character line, but you can see, look, we've got these things in here, right? Unlimited one-to-one support, daily live calls, unlimited ad account audits, like some really valuable stuff that we know that people interested in the mentorship program will be interested in, okay? Next, we get down to our build your story, which is obviously a whole section that doesn't exist under the other instant form types, but does allow you to add in a lot of really cool stuff into your instant form. So in this build your story section, there are various subsections. Now, not all of those might apply to your specific business, right? Some things, how it works is going to be important. For some things, how it works is not going to be important. In general, I do like adding information in here if there's more than a very, very simple purchase where they just sort of come through, have a call and buy. Or if you're operating in an industry where people aren't necessarily completely familiar with what you have to sell. The more you explain about how something works and how the process works, people are more likely to take the next steps and go through it because they can see the next step. We've all had that experience, haven't we, where you want to buy a product or service, you want to start doing a new hobby, whatever, and you're like, I don't even know how to get started. You want to remove that because that I don't know how to get started will cost you leads and obviously cost you clients. So we could go ahead and turn on how it works, and we can choose a title for this, so how it works, or we can add in different sections depending on what it is that you want to highlight. I'm going to use how it works. The example that we've been using is our mentorship program, and we're advertising in this ad a free offer, a free discovery call to find out more about the mentorship program. So then we can go ahead and walk through the steps. You can literally see we've got step 1, step 2 of how does someone actually sign up for the mentorship program? What does that look like? And that will help people understand and make it more likely that they'll go ahead and become a lead and want to go through the process, okay? So we could add in here, for example, free discovery call as the title step. You can see you've only got 23 characters here, so these have got to be really nice and short. And then in the description, we can have a one-to-one call with one of our Facebook ads coaches, one of our Facebook ads experts. You've got 54 characters on this one. So that would be step 1 of finding out more at that stage, just a free discovery call. Then in step 2, after you had your free discovery call, if you are interested in having found out all the information, you could become a mentee, right? So we can add that in there, again, nice and short. And in the description, we could have something like get immediate access to our best Facebook ads content, because the mentorship program comes with a whole library of incredible Facebook ads related material. Right, then we want to add in extra steps, okay? So that's just 2 steps at the moment. Step number 3. So as soon as someone signs up for the mentorship program, one of the first things we will do is a detailed ad account audit to let them know exactly what their campaigns currently look like, how they're doing, what we'd recommend for improvements, all that sort of stuff. So that would be one of the next steps that we put in here. We could add in a description, fully bespoke and complete with recommendations. We're emphasizing the value that comes along with the ad account audit. And then we could go ahead and add in another step, step 4, which would be the live calls. Okay, so we have daily live coaching calls with me and my team. We can add in that as a descriptor. And obviously you can build out as many steps as you want that make sense for your business and help people understand the process. But as you can see here, it's also a way to actually go about selling the thing that you offer, because not only have we added in the steps here, but we've made sure all the steps sound valuable and useful, and you're like, oh yeah, this is something that I want. I want to get better results from my Facebook and Instagram advertising. This sounds like the program for me. By the way, if you are interested in my mentorship program, there is a link in the description below. You can see a lot of the details that I'm talking about here, and you can book a free discovery call if you go ahead and click on that if you're interested. Okay, so the next section is products. I can go ahead and turn this on. Now, again, you can choose a title for this section. So we could change products to services. Obviously, there are other options, plans, courses, programs. Select the one that most applies to your business. So we would use something like services for our business because we're service-based, right? And then what you can see it creates over here on this right-hand side is like almost like a carousel ad where you've got these, where it literally says they're carousel cards where you can talk about the various, in this case, services that you offer. So obviously you're going to want to add an image for each one, something that makes sense. If it's a product, you want to add an image of your product. If it's a service, perhaps you add images of the service being demonstrated. I don't have those prepped up because I'm sure you get the idea here that you don't need to overthink that, just something that represents what the service is. But then you just want to go ahead and add in, the title, description, and again, some benefits for each one of the various services. So in card 1, we could have, meta ad services in there. And then in card 2, we could put in a different service that we offer, like done for you Google Ads services. And then we could add another card and add in the third one here, which could be our mentorship program. And then we can add in the various information. So if I do that for one of them to give you an example, so let's take our meta ads and services. In the description, we could go ahead and add in something like this, fully done for you Facebook and Instagram ads, so people understand what it is that they're getting. And then just like we did previously for the benefit associated with the actual offer that we're making in the ad, we want to go and add in the various benefits that are associated with this service specifically, okay? So we could have ongoing optimization, daily monitoring, ad creative included. Again, you've got very limited characters here, so it has to be short and punchy, even less in this title here, only 20 characters. So it's got to be really short and punchy, but just get over some of the benefits associated. Like if someone's thinking about fully handing over control of their Facebook and Instagram ad accounts to us, they want to know that there's going to be ongoing optimization, that we're going to monitor these daily, we're on top of it, and that we're going to create the ad creative and refresh things and create new campaigns and just do all the work, basically, right? So then obviously imagine an image on top of this, and then that's sort of what your card would look like, and then you'd have the various options. Now, whether or not you use the services option or the products option in your instant form when you're using Rich Creative, there's a plus and a minus. The plus is obviously if someone clicks on the ad for one of your offers, they can come through and see the various other offers. It might make it more likely that they'll inquire thinking, oh, okay, like in our case, it could be, oh, okay, I'm interested in the mentorship program, but actually maybe I don't want to learn and have you coach me to get great Facebook ads. Maybe instead I want to have you guys just run my ads for me, which we do, by the way, again, link in the video description. Someone might make that call if they can see the various service cards lined up within this instant form. But it can also do the opposite, where it detracts from the thing that you're advertising. So only add in, for example, different products, different services in these cards if you would be very happy for someone to go ahead and purchase the other thing anyway. Don't just add them in for the sake of it. Only do it if you meet that criteria, would be my recommendation, okay? In our case, we're very happy for someone to either join up to a mentorship program or go for our done-for-you services. And what typically determines that is what scale they're at, right? Bigger companies tend to go with done-for-you. Smaller ones or medium-sized ones tend to go with mentorship. Okay, next is social proof. So if I go ahead and turn this one on, now this is an absolute no-brainer to add in if you're using Rich Creative and you have them, because we know that social proof helps sell. It's why if you follow my stuff, you'll see that we constantly have screenshots from client ad accounts showing fantastic results. We've constantly got testimonials and reviews from like our Trustpilot page or other sources, people saying that our mentorship program is fantastic. And we would absolutely go ahead and build this out and take, you've literally got reviewers' names. If you've got like a testimonial, you can add in what they say. You could add in an image either like of the service or add in an image of the testimonial itself and go ahead and put that in here, right? So for example, we could come over to our Trustpilot page. You can see this is our Heath Media Trustpilot page, 123 reviews at 4.6 stars, which is phenomenally high for a marketing agency, by the way. And we could take this last review. So this is Jesse. We could add in obviously his name, and he's got learn Facebook and Instagram advertising from the pros. This was the perfect program for me as a small business owner. Their content on the Meta platform is top notch, up to date. All the staff work with are extremely knowledgeable and helpful, a great resource to have available for all my questions. Jesse's part of the mentorship program. So we could just come back in, add Jesse's name in here, the quote, add an image if appropriate, and then there you go. And then do that for a whole bunch. You can see you can add 2 to 5 carousel cards, but I think that's a really good option. If we click on here, there are some other options than just reviews. We've got accredited by and certified by. Now that might be really important for your business depending on what industry you operate in. Like if it's one where you have to be certified to do it for health and safety reasons or whatever, then it'd be really important to talk about your gas boiler certification to be able to work on gas boilers. So definitely go ahead and pop those things in where appropriate. If not, get the reviews in. That is a no-brainer. So the next section here and the last section is incentives. Now this is probably the one we use the most, but we do use it from time to time. So if I go ahead and turn this on, and what this allows you to do is offering a specific reward, and we'd usually only do this if it had extra information that we wanted to give across, like there's a time limit, for example. So we've been using a free discovery call as the example throughout this video. So we've got free discovery call as the incentive name. But what we could say here, for example, is like offer ends 30th of June. Okay, and that urgency can get people to take action because they're like, oh, I want this free discovery call. Oh, I've only got it available for a few more days. Obviously, depending on what time of year you watch this or whatever, then it might be different. Then that's normally when we would look to add in just a little bit of information to try and get people over the line. But this very much depends what you're doing. You don't want to say offer ends 30th June if you offer a free discovery call for the mentorship program or whatever it is you're offering all the time. That's that's not going to come across very well to your audience. And then you can put in a disclaimer. So if you're using like an introductory offer, you can see the example here is not valid with other promotions, or buy 2 get 1 free. It doesn't work if you also found another ad that's offering a 20% discount. You can't combine promotions. Only available, we could say for the free discovery call, only 1 free discovery call per person or something. We could have 1 free discovery call each. I mean, I would reword that. I'm just sort of, thinking off the top of my head to add this in, but something along those lines, right? To make sure people aren't just constantly booking into discovery calls. So you can add that again if you want to, which is optional. Okay, and that's the end of the rich creative section. The rest of the stuff is virtually the same. This is the really important part. We've got this. You can see we've added in a bunch of stuff in here. Where are we? We've got this build your story section. We've got these additional benefits, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, like what this would start to look like, how it works section. We've got the services section with the different options. We've got reviews in there. We've got potentially an incentive section. And you've just got so much more stuff, so much more built out to help convince your prospect to take the next step. If you look at most really high performing sales pages, they have loads of info, right? They have loads of info about how it works, about what's included, why it's so fantastic, testimonials, results, all that sort of stuff. You look at our sales pages for various things like the mentorship program I've done for your services, it's got tons of those sorts of things. So when would I actually recommend that you use rich creative as an instant form type? I would recommend you start with more volume if you're new to instant forms. But if you're finding that you want to improve lead quality and you don't want to take the big drastic step of removing a lot of people by using higher intent and using that review screen, I think rich creative is the first next step. We use a combination of more volume and rich creative most frequently, and particularly if it's a high ticket product or service, or it's something where people need more information to take the next step, like it's in an industry where there's a bit of skepticism, we like to use rich creative to just put all this extra stuff in there to get people to more likely trust that the product or service being offered is good, and then more likely to become a lead, and then more likely to convert. We have seen that you will see a higher cost per lead and lower lead volumes with rich creative versus more volume, because people have got this extra stuff to go through and not everyone will. Again, people are on their phones on Facebook and Instagram, they are distracted, so not everyone will. But we have seen that the quality is significantly better. You are more likely to convert. What you may want to do for your business is test more volume versus rich creative and decide which is more important. Do you want the volume, or are you happy to accept less volume but get higher quality? That's going to depend on your business. And if you use rich creative and you're still finding you're really running into a lot of lead quality issues, that's when we would look to use something like higher intent. But that's typically the process of how we go through. Now, if you're running Facebook ad campaigns that use instant forms, that's most likely because you are a service business or you're running ads on behalf of a service-based business. And if that's the case, I'd strongly recommend you go ahead and check out this video here. In that video, I demonstrate in a lot of detail my favorite Facebook ads strategy for service business specifically. It's an absolute game changer. Go ahead and check it out.